and laid the foundation with a splendidly worked goal 5 minutes into the second half. It followed that corner. The Emirate defence sprang forward looking for offside. But Alvarez outwitted the offside trap. His perfect cross met powerfully with a header by Reddin. And that goal was followed by a fantastic second one by Valderrama 5 minutes from the end. It crowned Colombia's display. Valderrama, much more than an extravagant hairstyle, his passing was superb, his control too, and he showed there that he got a shot. And that made quite short of a 2-0 victory for Colombia. Still in Bologna, the Yugoslavs were beginning to recover from their first match hammering by the West Germans, but it took a wonderful goal to beat Colombia 1-0. It came after 73 minutes, a copybook chest trap and volley by Josic. It really was a superlative piece of finishing, whichever way you looked at it. Now Yugoslavia needed victory over the United Arab Emirates to qualify, and 2 goals in the opening 8 minutes calmed their nerves. The first was a header by Susic. The second came after indecisive defending by the Emirates. And Panchev made it 2. And that was the second fastest goal of the tournament. To their credit, though, the Emirates responded pluckily and with plenty of skill. And they were rewarded after 21 minutes with a great header by Juma. Panchev soon cracked in his second to make it 3-1 for Yugoslavia. And on the stroke of time, Prosinecki, a young player they thought would be the rising star of this World Cup, made it 4-1. South Korean fans had plenty to say. Sadly, their team was beaten in all 3 qualifying games. The first was against Belgium in Verona. Even so, it was 51 minutes before the Belgians could find a way through. A hearty lob by De Gries. It produced philosophical looks from the South Koreans, and it was certainly a goal that calmed Belgian fears. Followed by another 11 minutes later. Poor clearance out of the South Korean defence fell to fullback De Wolf, and he returned it with considerable interest. Belgium against Uruguay in Verona was one of the best games of the tournament, not least in the quality of the goals it produced. Belgium scored the first, a fine cross by De Wolf, and a crushing header by Kleisters. Belgium made all the early running, some excellent crisp passing, and in their number 10 Schifo, the mastermind in midfield. And it was Schifo who scored a blistering second goal, 2 up in 21 minutes. Schifo establishing himself already as one of the outstanding midfield players in the 1990 World Cup. But before half-time, Belgium had fullback Gerrit sent off, a second yellow card, and they could have been in trouble. But the veteran Keulemans chose this first minute of the second half to score one of his most memorable goals. A splendid goal that put Belgium 3-0 ahead and out of reach. However, Uruguay continued to attack, and after 71 minutes they scored a well-taken goal. It followed that corner, and when the ball was crossed back in, Bengoechea scored with a well-placed volley. But in spite of this, Belgium won 3-1. Quickly to Belgium, now in white, against Spain. Spain won a penalty after 26 minutes when Salinas was brought down by goalkeeper Prudhomme. There was no doubt about that decision. And Michel, a prolific scorer, was given the responsibility from the spot. Scored to put Spain ahead. Although Prudhomme in the Belgian goal guessed right and almost made it. Belgium was sorely weakened by injuries, but they equalised 3 minutes later. Schifo, on another of his silky threatening runs, was brought down. The question was whether he would take the free kick himself. But it was Vervoort who stepped up, who pierced the Spanish wall and put Belgium level at 1-1. But before half-time, Spain were in front again, with Belgium showing little of the fire and commitment that had made them look so dangerous in their earlier games. Conceded the free kick out by the corner flag. And from it, Goris scored with a beautifully judged and angled header. Belgium's Schifo later missed a penalty, so Spain won by 2-1. In Udine, Spain's Michel scored a spectacular hat-trick against South Korea. We've seen the Spaniards' victory over Belgium. They also drew 0-0 with Uruguay. Michel's first strike came after 23 minutes. Villarroya made the cross. Michel provided the volley. Stand by now, though, for a blistering reply from South Korea. A free kick by Kwan from fully 30 yards that threatened to break the Spanish net. Hit with such power, it's amazing it actually seemed to swerve away from Zubizarreta. Wonder manager Luis Suarez of Spain had the look of some concern on that worldly face of his. But soon Michel was back in action again with a free kick of his own. Just watch that number 21. Curled to perfection, over the wall and in. With 10 minutes left, Spain, so often accused of never relating as a national team to the successes of their top club sides, they sealed the match. And again, Michel was the man to watch. South Korea unable to clear to safety. And Michel's nimble footwork and icy brain brought goal number 3. Spain won 3-1. Michel became the first player of the 1990 World Cup to score a hat-trick. Possibly a touch of offside about that one, but Spain reached the second phase. For all the penalty shootouts that were to come later, few finishes had more drama to them than the one between Uruguay and South Korea in Udine, where Uruguay needed a win to qualify for the second phase and was still being held 0-0 well into injury time at the end of the game. The desperate Uruguayans, seconds away from going home in disgrace, were awarded the free kick. The substitute Fonseca met it, and suddenly they were safe. Uruguay had attacked for much of the game, had hit the post after only 40 seconds, but had to wait in agony until this last gasp lifesaver. Reactions on and off the field made it clear just what that meant. In Cagliari, England and the Republic of Ireland played a dull, featureless 1-1 draw. Both managers, though, professed themselves satisfied. England's start was a good one. Chris Waddle's cross from the touchline bounced favourably for Gary Lineker, and with 8 minutes of their World Cup gone, England were ahead. Lineker, top scorer with 6 in the 1986 World Cup in Mexico, had quickly made his intentions clear once more. The Republic of Ireland's second-half equaliser came from Kevin Sheedy. A marginal mistake in control by Steve McMahon just on as a substitute, and Sheedy swept the ball past Peter Shilton and was swamped in green. A half mistake, heavily punished, 1-1 the final score. England went goalless, but were more impressive against Holland, and then needed a win, or at the least a point, against Egypt to qualify. Des Walker was injured, but from the free kick, Paul Gascoigne floated the ball beautifully to the head of defender Mark Wright. It was Wright's first goal for England, but it was priceless because it put England into phase 2. Egypt lined up against Holland in Palermo, the Egyptians with excellent technique, an indication of the great strides being made by the African nations. And indeed, not until 58 minutes did Holland find a way through. A Van Basten cross, a Rijkaard dummy, and Keefe scores an excellent goal. And with Gullit still not fully fit after a season of knee trouble, Holland needed that encouragement badly. But with 8 minutes left, they conceded a penalty. Sam Hassan was brought down. The question now was, would Abdul Ghani have the nerve to give Egypt the draw they deserved? It was the perfect penalty. It finished 1-1. Gullit's one genuine moment of class came in Holland's match against the Republic of Ireland. That was more like the Gullit of 1988, and one that Holland needed so badly to see plenty of. But just as one of their top players hit true form, so another lost it for a moment. Goalkeeper Hans van Broecklyn. A fumble that was quite out of character. Niall Quinn stepped in. That was 1-1. 3 successive draws for Holland. They and the Republic of Ireland went through. Our first match in the second phase showed the continuing advance of Cameroon, here against Colombia in Naples. No goals in 90 minutes, and then we saw again the razor finishing of Roger Milla, with 2 in extra time. First, a simple pass by number 7, Oman Biyik. Then what looked a simple skip past one defender and a ferocious shot to put Cameroon ahead. To be followed, of course, by that copyright of Miller's, the jig at the corner flag. 38-year-old's brain, the 25-year-old's legs.